If you're watching this right now, you've probably clicked on this after I've uploaded and everything because you probably haven't tuned into the live stream because it's so early. But basically, what I wanted to do tonight is stream and talk about the channel and sort of talk about everything that's been going on and the new subscribers and things like that. And I also wanted to maybe drink one of these. It's a leftover can of Strongbow from New Year's Eve because I don't really drink that much, but I drink occasionally. So people just tuned in. Yeah, I'm going to probably drink this on stream as well just to celebrate 5,000 subs. And what I wanted to talk about today was just sort of my channel and how it's been going and the history of it and everything. So if you've ever interested about, my background and where I've come from and how I've made all this sort of thing, what I think of Praga University, I don't really know too much about it, to be honest. I've seen some videos debunking their stuff. Don't they have Dinesh D'Souza and everything? If you want to type in the comments what exactly it is, like fundamentally, it sounds like a right-wing Christian university or something like that, or an institution. I'm not too sure, but let me know anyway. Yeah, so just want to talk about the history of this channel and everything and what's been going on. So yeah, I promised I would live stream at 12 tonight. So let's get into it. So basically, I went to university back in 2014. That's my first university, and I did a history degree. And when I was doing my degree, I obviously loved everything like that. Praga propaganda. If someone wants to explain it a bit more than just that, then I'd be happy to talk about it. I might look up on my phone on the stream. But yeah, I went to university in 2014, and in my third year, I was lucky enough to get to work on the entertainment magazine. But one of my friends on the magazine was one of the main people on the radio, so we had something called Surge Radio. So then I started doing the radio at university, doing my own show, and basically what my show was just me on my own, which was kind of daunting, talking about politics and stuff. And it was very hard because if you guys have ever worked in that sort of thing, talking to yourself on camera like I'm doing now, I'm getting a lot better at it, is actually pretty hard, and especially when you know people could be listening that you know as well. So, okay, so Praga U, just to take a break. Short Prague University is an American non-profit organisation that creates videos on politics, economics, and philosophical topics from a right-wing perspective. Isn't that the one Charlie Kirk's works for? Oh, okay. Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk. I'm not liking the sound of this, so it's pretty much just right-wing propaganda, I'm guessing. But I'll go back to that later. But anyway, so yeah. Point don't make an NGO. I'm not really sure what that comment means. Point of view, don't make a non-government organisation or something. Yeah, so at university I did my radio show, and then my little brother does YouTube as well, and he's a lot bigger than me, but not really going to talk about that today, because now hopefully all my subs don't know who he is. But he was like, why don't you put it on YouTube? Oh, okay, yeah, short videos. I think I've seen some of them with Dinesh D'Souza and Charlie Kirk and think. Yes, I put the radio show on YouTube, and you can't see it anymore. My first video is me talking about when PewDiePie said the N word and stuff. So even then, it was quite relevant. That was back in 2017. And that's when I started my channel, and from then I kind of made some sort of rubbish videos. I wouldn't say they're too bad. It's just audio recording, and then everything about that. So like, I did stuff on ISIS, but it was just me talking in a monotone voice, pretty much, over just a thumbnail, I guess, because there wasn't even moving pictures. And then I left university, I kind of changed it, I put B-roll footage of video games, and then in January 2018, oh, okay, this is good. Joey Diaz as, does your username have an origin story? So, I was just trying to think of a clever username. So, Jim Sterling, who is a video game sort of slash politics commentator, has Jimquisition. That's pretty good. But I was raised Catholic. I'm obviously not Catholic anymore if you pay attention to my channel. But there's something in the Catholic Church called the tabernacle. Now, I never really understood what the tabernacle is, but I'll read you a definition just to make it clear what it is, and so I don't butcher it. But I'm pretty sure it's like a quiet bit of the church. So, a church tabernacle is a fixed locked box in which some Christian churches, where the Eucharist is reserved, a less obvious container for the same purpose, set into a wall. It's called an ambry. So I thought it was something else, but someone told me it was something else. But I always thought a tabernacle was where you put the Eucharist, and in our church it was in like a little box in the sign, and people had to go get it and everything. And I was also an altar server, so I was around this stuff. And then I just thought, what's a clever name for myself that kind of played into my own name? So just one day I was just writing down some names, and it's like, oh, tabernacle. It sounds like tabernacle, and because I'm atheist and ex-Catholic, it's quite a funny sort of play on words, and that's the origin story of my username, which I thought was quite clever, and my girlfriend says it's a really good name and everything. So yeah, this is my New Year's Eve Strongbow, which I never finished, and I'm gonna have it now. But yeah, so talking about the history of my channel as well. In January 2018, I started doing more face cam videos, and my little brother lent me his camera. Obviously, smells really bad. Lent me his camera, and so I started doing stuff on American politics a lot, and just giving my opinion and everything. And my first video to get a lot of recognition, I guess, was some of my Jordan Peterson ones. Oh, thank you, Hot Take. It's been ages. Like, it feels like it's taken ages to get here, but I'm happy I finally have. But yeah, going back to my point, I made videos on Jordan Peterson. I don't know if any of you have seen them, but basically debunking some of his sexism, really, because at that time he was getting more prominent, and his arguments were really, really weird about monogamy and everything. So they blew up because one of them got brigaded hard by his fans. So if you go to the video, I think it has like 500 dislikes and only 60 likes. So yeah, that was a nice learning experience. Do I have family in the US? Asked Adam. I don't have any like strictly American family, but my great uncle lives in the US, and some of my cousins do. They live in California, but I have never really interacted with them much. I'd say my interest in US sort of politics comes from being Irish rather than being American, because the family have always loved people like the Kennedys, and my granddad really loved them and everything. And I think where he's from in Dublin is where, or Dublin, I don't know if they come from Dublin or whatever, but I visited the Kennedy home in Ireland, so I think it's more linked to that. And I just love American politics, and because, you know, oh, hi, Christy, my fellow policy. Yeah, exactly, I'm a policy junkie. But because, yeah, of my history in Ireland and everything, and the way the globe is dominated by American media, I just love it. So, for example, thank you, Mama Pastor Ox. Appreciate your support. I've noticed you in a few video comments. So basically, my favorite TV shows are Mad Men, Boardwalk Empire, and Mr. Robot, and they're all set in America in different time periods, which I really like. So Mr. Robot is my favorite, and that's set in present day. Mad Men's 1960s, Boardwalk Empire's 1920s, but just all the music, the culture, and everything, I really love that stuff. And then all my favorite movies are set in LA. So basically, all my favorite things are set in America. So my favorite movies are Spike Jonze's Her, about it's when Scarlett Johansson plays an AI and falls in love, or a man falls in love with his AI, played by Joaquin Phoenix. And then I also love Blade Runner, the first one, and 2049, which is posted over there. And then my other favourite film is Drive, so another Ryan Gosling film, which is also set in LA. So I love American stuff in general. So that kind of means, kind of what informs me in my politics, because, you know, it makes me more interested in the country. And I know a lot of people don't like them, but I started watching The Young Turks when I was about 15 or something. And while if people don't like them, that's fair enough, whatever. But because they do a good job of reporting the news, it was good to stay educated and everything. Evan Richards asked, "What do I think of Peter Booty Gig?" I can't even say his name, but I know who you're talking about. It's that gay mayor. I don't know where he's from. Someone told me to make a video on him. I think it might have been you. I'll have a look into him more. He sounds like a decent guy. Like, I read that story about it was like some Somali family were trying to get some healthcare or something, and then they needed a translator, and then he just showed up. Booty Judge. Oh, that's a good one. John. Oh yeah, Christy says she loves John at TYT. Jane asks, what else do I watch? Oh, that's how you say it. Okay. But yeah, he seems like a decent guy, and he showed up to a hospital. He translated for that family, and they didn't even know he was the mayor. So that's pretty funny. In terms of other, yeah, so I don't watch secular talk that much. I subscribed to David Pakman for a while, and I don't really like him anymore because of everything he's been saying. Like, he's kind of more of a centrist, but he does a decent job anyway. I watched a lot of Jimmy Dore. I think his prank calls are so funny. So basically, he gets one of his mates to always call in as a celebrity. So Kevin Spacey, Liam Neeson, and he does who's that really, that New Jersey mayor, what's his name, mayor, or Chris Christie, but he does Chris Christie, but he plays him as Tony Soprano, and it is so funny, and I love that stuff. It's so funny. Yeah, so I Control My Fate, I agree with you. Yeah, Booty. Oh, I didn't know Booty Judge was unhappy that Chelsea Manning got clemency, but she's been put in solitary confinement apparently now. I just read today. Veronica, yeah, I agree. Patman's kind of weird. Like, he kind of defends capitalism too much. But I just saw his latest video was about capitalism, maybe criticizing it. I didn't watch it yet, but I'll have a look. Kyle seems okay. I like Jenk, but a lot of the time, yeah, I agree with you, Veronica. Anyone smearing Ilhan Omar is really disingenuous, in my opinion. Ketwig, someone was telling me that. Oh, fucking hell, that's that guy again talking about Ketwig from last stream. Um, yeah, Amy Goodman and Democracy Now! I watch as well. Max Blumenthal, I don't really like him because I understand what his deal is. Like he's trying to point out the hypocrisy of like Western media, but I think he goes too far to defend stuff like that stupid Venezuela video he made is like, oh, does this look like a socialist supermarket? And he's talking about like how they have like luxury goods and everything. Yeah, Noam Chomsky and Howard Zinn. Howard Zinn wrote that book, didn't he, about America? My girlfriend keeps telling me to read it. Yeah, that is so neat. Yeah, so that's nice to hear, Veronica. Yeah, I hope that there's a good deal of smaller YouTubers coming up as well. So Chris Hedges, yeah, is good as well. But yeah, so hopefully yeah, Michael Brooks is good. Majority Report is that's all good as well. There's a guy called Progressive Voice, but he's kind of like what's it like a showbiz reporter because he comments on all the other channels, which is quite funny. Yeah, but that's fine, Adam, if you watch David Pakman and don't agree with everything he says because you can't agree with everyone. And like I don't agree with Cenk Uygur. Oh yeah, Control Effect, you watch Progressive Voice. I don't agree with Cenk or Anna all the time. And okay, see you in a bit. The Gen Z progressives, yeah, I'd agree with that definitely because he doesn't really he does report on this stuff, but he's mainly focused on the voices like Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, all these people. Whereas I'm not really into that stuff. Yeah, Christy, what she was telling me, I was talking to her the other day about the American Revolution. Hot take, yeah, Kim Everson. We had a little fight on Twitter actually because she was saying the U.S. created ISIS, and I had a problem with that, and she said we created Al Qaeda as well. But she seems okay. Some of her opinions are weird. Oh yeah, but going back about Howard Zinn. Sorry, there's so many comments I can't keep up. I noticed a lot more YouTubers getting like anti-SJW. Yeah, anti SJW stuff I don't like. Because I just feel it's popular on YouTube, so people jump on the bandwagon like Joe Rogan. Even though I don't think he's necessarily an awful person, but like anti SJWs, I made a video called "The Rise of the Anti SJWs," just talking about how these disingenuous people will just make videos like saying, "Oh, SJWs everywhere," but it's mainly like maybe one extreme person, and they use it to paint the whole of the left, and I think that's really stupid. And you see all these videos like, "Oh, top 10 SJW fails," and in their head these people think of like some I don't know some lesbian feminist with like blue hair, and that's like representative of leftist people and stuff, which is quite annoying. But yeah, I don't generally like anti SJWs. I'm more like I'm an anti SJW because that's what I made my video on because I think it's ridiculous, and also the type of hate they get. I think it's kind of the anti SJW movement has kind of mixed in with the alt right, and I think it's a good gateway to the alt right for a lot of people because it's a gateway to the ideology because cultural Marxism is a dog whistle for really a lot of Nazi arguments, and that's something Jordan Peterson talks about a lot. And it's such a weird fear. Like, okay, maybe they go a bit too far, but at the end they just want more tolerance and more diversity and everything. And then Jordan Peterson talking about how the Marxists lost the culture war, so they infiltrated all the universities, they brainwashed all the young people into being SJWs is absolutely insane, and also shows a stupid understanding of Marxism because in America, the understanding of Marxism is either Venezuela, Soviet Union, China, or something like that. That's not what Marxism is. Marxism fundamentally wants freedom for everyone to pursue their own interests and freedom from capitalism and freedom from wage slavery. That's what Marxism is. Whether that's, the interpretation, there's stuff in there, you know, that can lead to these things. You can debate that, but fundamentally, Marxism is not equivalent to something like Nazism because Nazism starts at let's commit genocide against everyone. Let's make an ethno state of white Christians, and you know that's not what Marxism is. Marxism's like you're being oppressed forever. Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, Marxism's like you're being oppressed by the capitalist class. Let's rise up and make a better world for everyone. That's the way you start with Marxism, and it obviously what has happened through in some countries. Bernie Sanders says he doesn't consider back in the day the Soviet Union socialist. I wouldn't either, because authoritarianism isn't socialist, and that's just the heart of it. And Americans have been so brainwashed against Marxism that they don't understand it. It's a largely economic theory, and I think a lot of people in America would actually agree with Marxism if you it's like Obamacare. It's like how they had to rename Obamacare to other things so people in red states would support it. I think that you have to do it with Marxism. Like if you just sat one of these people down and be like, read this. This is a summary of Marxism. I think they would agree with it. But because you say it's Marxism, they obviously have an ingrained fear of it from America. Whether that's because America's so capitalist or America's so Christian, it kind of fits into both of those things. But yeah, America, doesn't understand this as well as it should. As for Noah and John Oliver, uh, yeah, John Phillips. Yeah, I could make a video on that. It's just such a large topic. Like, where do you really start? Like America with Christianity or America with, Fox News, but it's kind of everything. Um, yeah, I should make a video on that, but I don't even think it's just America. Oh, okay, that's a good point. That Obamacare was named Obamacare so people would hate it in some places. Um, Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. What's it talking about? Obamacare, capitalism, American Revolution. Sorry, I'm just thinking one sec. Well, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, John Oliver and Trevor Noah. I don't watch either of them. My brother really likes John Oliver, and he's going to be a good Zazu in Lion King, which is I think got a good voice for that. But generally for things like that, they make such basic arguments. Like even like James Corden's doing politics now, and I don't know if everyone in this chat's American, but James Corden was actually pretty funny. Like back in the day when he was Smithy on Gavin and Stacey, that's what he got famous from. He was genuinely really funny, but I can't stand him now. Most British people can't. Just he's such a sellout. But the politics basically is, oh, Trump is bad, and that's what I even find with John Oliver. John Oliver's a bit better, and they do go into depth about how these things are bad, but it's generally like right wing is bad. Do you think they encourage political turmoil as their ratings go down? No, I haven't seen that Hassan thing on the Patriot Act. That's the comedian, isn't it? Or am I thinking of someone else? But I think for the media, I said in one of my other videos, I think CNN love Trump because it's just so easy to be like, Trump is bad, Muslim ban, bad. As talked about. I think I saw that in my suggested box, but I haven't watched it yet. But yeah, so corporate media is like bad, 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 and it's so easy. But like AOC said today about the Mueller report, like whether Trump colluded with Russia isn't the problem. The problem is how someone this corrupt and racist got to be president in the first place. That's what you got to address, and that's going into the flaws of capitalism in general, and American capitalism and American Christianity and everything like that. Okay, yeah, I will check out Patriot Act. Wait, where's my pen? I should write it down. And that's the corporate media benefits from the system, and it's the same in the UK as well, because we don't have corporate media in the sense we have, news stations broadcasting propaganda all the time. It's more subtle than that. So the BBC, I think, is an arm of the government, and it does have a pro-government view all the time. Sky News is even better. Sky News is the same owner as Fox News, and it's pretty good. But what we have in this country, British people are racist too. I control my fate. I was talking about today. English people, especially, not British people as a whole. English people, white English people. Yeah, I'd say America's history with fascism is very interesting. I don't know if any of you checked out my video about how America inspired Nazi Germany, but it's really, really interesting because laws against in California in 1934, like that's the year after Hitler came to power, California passed a law where you had to sterilize people who were like deaf or any like little disability, blind and everything like that. You were sterilized for that in America. Isn't that insane? Like being blind or deaf got you sterilization because they thought you'd pass it on because they believe in like eugenics and shit. So isn't that crazy? And then you have things like the genocide of the Native Americans. You have things like all the laws against Asian people, all the laws against black people, Jim Crow, obviously everything like that. And yeah, Evan, I really agree with that because it's like with the BBC, it's trying to be so impartial with their bullshit. It's like here's a climate change denier, here's a super qualified scientist, and everything. Yeah, I like being a bit sensationalist by saying white English people are racist, but I think my point is a lot of this country are very white and they're very conservative, even though conservatives fuck them over all the time. and especially places in maybe like the southwest that voted Brexit and things that aren't really directly impacted by Brexit, and who read the Sun all the time. I think there's a massive strain of low key racism in white English people specifically, and that's what I want to like touch on with the Brexit stuff I was talking about, because so someone who's Irish and everything, you just got to look at the hysteria about that ISIS bride potentially coming back compared to, like I was asking my dad, compared to when Pinochet, the dictator of Chile, came to the UK for 2 years. And I said to my dad, did anyone really care about that? And he was like, yeah, they did, but it wasn't a big deal. And he said that ISIS bride thing was way worse. And I think that sums everything up. That ISIS bride thing, I think, sums up the low-key racism in English society. That we could be so hostile to a woman who's clearly been groomed and has a little kid, and we hope they both die, essentially. Loads of people, that's okay to say that. Yeah, I think with the UK, US is more institutionally racist, but the UK racism is more shady. It's like in the background. And that Javid, our Home Secretary, talking about Pakistanis and stuff, the culture there and everything. And yeah, I think the racism in the UK is less explicit. And obviously, if you're racist at your job, you're racist on TV, you normally get done. Apart from when Angela Smith called non-white people a funny tinge live on the BBC, nothing happened to her then. But with America, it's so overtly racist because Trump is your president, obviously, and he just embodies I think he embodies what's been happening in America. Is there's just been racism went underground sort of after like the civil rights and movement and stuff, and it became impolite to be openly racist, but it never went away, and it's just come up from the surface again, and Trump just represents that. Because I was saying to I was talking to my dad the other day about it. Just like Martin Luther King, for all he didn't achieve like equality, and the system didn't either. Yeah, that's a good point actually about the UK having classism a lot more, because a lot of the Tory leadership, Eton, Cambridge, they've all come from the same cloth, really, aren't they? Cut from the same cloth, and they can trace their ancestry back like 700 years and stuff, like, which is pretty crazy. And Americans can't really do that. Oh, do you have a podcast, Christy? That'd be interesting. I'm all for doing other things as well. But yeah, that's a good point about classism compared to racism. And yeah, it does often overlap, because who is at the top of the class system in both countries? It's white people, or white, people who think they're just white Americans or white British people, even though in reality it's a lot more diverse than that. Even though you can be proper English because you just can't trace back your history anymore, because obviously English people is a mixture of Normans, of Romans, of the native Celts and people from Cornwall and shit like that. It's very diverse throughout history, but now, we kind of say the Norman invasion is like a cut-off point. Like, if you're born after that, or your family's born after that, you're English, I think. Yeah, hot take. Trump is just a weird one. Like, he ran for president in 2000 as well, and he said that Oprah should be his vice president and shit. So I don't think Trump believes anything, but I think he's always been very racist. And you'd be kidding yourself if you think people like Bill Clinton and everything don't have the greatest beliefs on race, because, like the 13th Amendment and shit like that. That documentary, or 13th it's called, about prison slavery and stuff. But I think, people who think Democrats can't be racist are pretty crazy as well. Like, look at Joe Manchin, people like that. That's like old school Democrat. But, people's view on race, and even Hillary and Bill Clinton's view on gay people, and Obama's, and everything. Yeah, I watched it, when did it come out? Like 2 years ago? Left and nothing. Yeah, I'm not surprised. And isn't it so telling that when you get the president you elect after a black guy is one of the most obviously, or not obviously, brazen racist presidents probably of all time? Because I'd say Ronald Reagan, Nixon, George Bush. He was in the. Does anyone know? George Bush Senior was in the segregationist party when he started politics. Just to let everyone know, even though he was a war hero or whatever, but they're all racist presidents, and his son as well. But the thing is, they weren't like brazenly racist, where Trump is so obviously racist, and that's what happens after the first black president. It's crazy, and I think it says so much about America, is that on one side you can be so progressive that you can elect your first black president in a country that has treated black people so badly for its whole history, and then the next time you're like, and now here is the most racist president we have ever had. I'd say he's probably more racist because, you know, you hear his comments like Michael Cohen, like they're driving through, was it Detroit or something? He talking about like how, you know, black people living like savages and things like that. Like he's so obviously racist. It's crazy to me, but it's just really interesting. Well, there was Hillary Clinton supporters in 2008 who then voted for John McCain. So I think that tells you everything, which is, you know, interesting as well. And Hillary Clinton, I don't even want to get started on Hillary Clinton, to be honest. It's just too easy. Sorry, I just need a drink. We're talking for a while. I think Obama would win, but I'm not sure because of like the hard left. Left that are more critical of the Dems, I think have gotten a lot more prominent now, which is a good thing. But with, you know, the purity test, yeah, Joe Manchin is a Republican just because he's just in the Democratic Party. He basically is one. But, you know, I think that we're kind of done with Obama's politics, and he's probably the most disappointing president of all time because what he promised and what he was saying. You know, can you believe he didn't even close Guantanamo Bay? That's such an easy win. Do you know what I mean? Like, the stories coming out of that from people who've been innocently detained for years is disgusting. And he can't even close that down. Thanks for Sir. Oh, I have fans now for the first time. Yeah, it's been nice getting all these new subscribers because you're so much more engaged than my old ones. Evan, the Captain Marvel stuff, I think it's just indicative of racist nerd culture, to be honest. Like, it's like, why are you getting so angry that she talked about, like, diversity and shit? You're like, I won't see Captain Marvel. Imagine how fragile you have to be as a white person for that to be so offensive to you. I don't even understand it. Like, it's stuff with, like, Star Wars as well, and all this diversity stuff is like, oh, what, you don't like white males anymore and shit like this. Like, it goes into my point. I said, made a video a couple of weeks ago about white people not being oppressed, or white Christians specifically. Like, losing your total dominance of everything is not oppression. Oppression is like being black in America, essentially, not being a rich white Christian or a privileged white Christian who has to go see more diversity in your films and TV shows now. Why is that a bad thing? Which, you know, never understand. The human race has been built on diversity, the progression of our societies and everything, especially back in the ancient world. I just read my book on ancient Greece, talking about all that, you know, the reason they became so successful is because they traded with all these countries like Persia, even, which was really interesting. Ancient Greece used to come and get tin from Cornwall in England, which is crazy to me. Like, you can't even imagine what England was like back then. But it's like regression every step forward. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear that, Veronica. It possibly is because docile voters don't vote for Obama. They don't really care, and then, you know, when Trump comes, they're so angry about Obama after a while, and then that's sort of like the backlash that they get galvanized. But obviously, the backlash against Obama was there. It's fostered by the Tea Party, wasn't it? Like hanging effigies of Obama, like fucking disgusting shit like that. And Fox News has destroyed America. Let's keep it real. Like, the people who voted for Trump, I think it's a similar case of Brexit. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of his supporters were way older. Oh, thanks, Contra Gaming, for saying congrats. So over 65s or whatever, brainwashed by Fox News, get most of their stuff on the TV, and then they're brainwashed by fake news as well, because, you know, to people like us, people watching this stream, when you read an article, you're like, where's this from? And then you have a look where it's from, and then you decide for yourself, is that a reputable source? Like, does this newsroom go through a process where they won't publish this sort of stuff? So what is a good example? So if I read something off Breitbart, I'd never believe it. Or is it the Daily Stormer as the Nazi one and shit? Like, but you just click on links sometimes, don't you? Because someone posts a headline, you just click on it, you're like, oh, that sounds bad, and you click on it, and you're like, oh, it's from Breitbart. I'm not going to believe this because it's obviously totally disingenuous, and it's in bad faith and everything. So it's not going to be something I want to take in. And if there's a point here, maybe I can go and research it some more. But I think older people, especially if they don't have a great education, and especially because they're not really tech savvy, a lot of them as well, they'll just believe it and believe what's being said to them because, you know, to them, even though they call CNN fake news, they'll believe literal fake news. Yeah, I'd say it would be from boomers, just because there's Reddit pages about like insane people, Facebook. It's always really old people. Like, what am I drinking? It's the one I posted in my little picture. So dirty Strongbow dark fruit from New Year's Eve because I bought 4 of them because I'm not such a big drinker. I didn't finish it, but I've been saving it for another time I've been going out. It's just been sitting in my drawer, so that's what I've been drinking to celebrate 5k. That's my fancy drink. When I get 10k, I can have something nicer like, I don't know, what's a nicer beer? What other Corona. Corona, I could have a Corona. Oh, did you? How long did you live in the UK for? Yeah, Strongbow's okay, to be honest. What do you think about cervical screenings for women being prioritised? So, Evan, they can't get screenings free on the NHS, is what you're saying? Or they're starting to privatise it, if you want to explain it a bit more. But obviously, you know, that plays into my point about Brexit and the Tories and everything. Oh, nice one. Uni of Nottingham. I know some people who went there. Nottingham's okay. I went to the University of Southampton. I think they're both in the Russell Group. And I went to Royal Holloway as well, which is nice. Could you do more UK videos? I'll say for now, no, because as much as I'd like to do more UK videos, most of my subscribers are American, and most of the people who watch my videos... Yeah, Southampton's alright. I don't know when you came there, but it's gotten a lot nicer over the time I went to uni there. Oh, nice. Yeah, no, Southampton is a good uni, at least. Town's okay. But yeah, in terms of UK politics, I like UK politics. It's very complicated and it can be quite boring. But yeah, my audience is American. People who watch my videos are American. And to be honest, on the internet, Americans dominate. Oh, 2010, so you're a fair bit older than me. But so yeah, Southampton's a lot nicer now. Last time I went was 2017. They've really improved it, actually. A lot of money has been spent. I think also because the football team's a lot better there now as well. It brings in a lot more people. But I vote... What do you vote for? Sorry, what was I saying? 30. You must be late 20s, early 30s then, because I'm 23. The shower floor and the bathroom floor are the same. I had that at my first year at uni in my dorm room. It's like you had the one room with the shower and the bathroom. It was all like one, so the water would go everywhere, which wasn't too fun. I forgot what it was called because it would dry pretty quick, so it wasn't like awful, but yeah, it was quite weird. But yeah, in terms of UK politics, yeah, I don't know. American audience is on YouTube and it's on the internet. Most of the internet is dominated by Americans. And football teams, so my local team is Brentford, who are in the Championship, who are actually really good, but they're just really inconsistent. Oh, nice, you did a PhD. What was that like? I was thinking about doing it, but I'm kind of sick of education now. And, sorry, as well as Brentford, I support Man United as well. And Brentford's my local team, so I just go and support them. And they used to be really shit, but it's kind of weird because they've gotten so good. Brentford and Man U might play each other in the near future, so I don't know who I'd support. You love education. Yeah, I like it too, and I kind of miss it, but because I didn't have a gap year and I just did it straight, so I've been in school since 2000 to 2018. It's just like, I'm just so burnt out on it. Especially like the last couple months before I finished my masters was so tiring, and yeah, it was just hard to think I'm going to do 3 years where I'm getting like reviewed by a board who are funding my research. I don't know if I'm good enough in terms of writing for a PhD either. Like I think my writing's good and everything, but yeah, not PhD level. Maybe one day. Maybe if my life's going to shit. I'm trying to get a job at the moment. I had a job interview on Friday. Yeah, nice. Maybe I have to do like something like working for a bit before I go back and you know, do a PhD. But I'll say I don't even know what I'll do a PhD on. I'd obviously do it probably at Royal Holloway because it's close by to me, but I'm not too sure. But yeah, so final point on the UK politics. Interested, I'd like to do it. No audience for it, and I also find American politics a bit more interesting, to be honest. I've always liked American politics a lot more. Don't really know why, but probably because it's so flashy and everything. Male Cameron, neither. They're both the worst. I control my fate. I'm going to be a bit basic, because I was saying earlier, I don't know if you were here, you may have been, but my favourite TV shows are in New York, and my favourite films in LA, so I'd love to go to New York first, just because I love Mr. Robot. It's my profile picture is my Mr. Robot mask, which is hanging up somewhere over there. And then LA as well. I'm not sure what part of LA, but I've heard LA isn't that touristy friendly because it's so like spread out everywhere. So yeah, New York definitely. Some other places I don't know where I'd like to go. Seattle sounds cool. Um, Veronica, I'm not too sure about Corbyn and Brexit. So basically, he's the leader of the Labour Party, but he never liked Brexit. But he was kind of forced into supporting Remain because of everything like his party wanted. But he's never liked it because socialists don't like the EU because they just see it as like a big block of for mega corporations to exploit people. But he's been kind of trying to focus on the issues more while Brexit's been going on because, like I said in my video, Brexit's been such a sideshow that I think it's kind of good he's trying to focus on other things, but then he's getting screwed over by the media a bit. Well, they screw him over anyway because it's the British media, but because he's not backing Remain as much and everything. So people have said that they need a better leader for this stuff. I don't know if I agree with him. I think he's doing okay, but obviously it's not great to be the leader of a party that wants to remain in the European Union when you're from an ideological background that doesn't want to be part of it. Yeah, but Evan, if that's his ideology and he was elected on that ideology, is it kind of hard to change it? Yeah, the EU has. I'm not saying it's particularly a bad thing. Like, I've been writing a lot about EU stuff recently, and I see how vital it is for like the construction industry, the music industry, and everything. But I can see an argument where we could become like a country like Norway or something, where it's more internalized. So you're looking inwards and you want to spend the money inwards. But the UK loves having a say on the world stage. We're in the UN Security Council and everything, and we love being involved in all these fucking invasions and interventions. And this country has been brainwashed to think, because of our, legacy of the British Empire, we're still important when we're not as important as we think we are. And we don't have the mindset to really become Norway or Scandinavian countries and stuff. And that's what you'd need with Corbyn, people to accept that more. So, he I think he did support a people's vote. I don't think he ruled that out, but in my mind, we should just not leave the EU and we should just abandon it all because, like I said in my video, it's just a project of the right wing, like some right wing millionaires, and it's all being disguised or a good disguise for a Tory leadership contest and everything. So, yeah, do you really think that? I think if possibly if we lost Scotland, but to be honest, isn't the population of Scotland 4 million and the population of Northern Ireland's about similar or 3 million? So I don't know if it really changes too much, but obviously Scotland gives us a lot of power because of the oil and gas and stuff. Yeah, that Veronica, that's just like I was saying. I think it's hard for someone who hates the EU so much to be so try and put a passionate argument forward. But he still wants his vision for Britain, and I don't want him to quit over Brexit. I'd rather we leave and Corbyn become Prime Minister, if I'm honest, because we stay in the EU and then we have the Tories in power for another 20 years or something. That sounds a lot worse to me, to be honest. So it's a hard one. Second referendum, yeah, let's have a second referendum. Maybe put three choices on it. Maybe if May has the deal voted on, maybe we could vote on the deal and then referendum or no deal or something like that. I'm not too sure how it works. I'm really sick of Brexit, to be honest. I'm just so pissed off it's even happening. I'm so pissed off it happened in the first place. Like, it's just amazing to watch your country screw themselves. It's too complicated, Evan, for a yes or no question. And I control my fate. So, yeah, here's the difference. Tories are not stupid. Like, Republicans have some flat out, like, idiots in their ranks. Tories are generally not stupid because, in England, they're reflective of the rich, basically, the Tories. And you get some good Tories. There are some Tories who are sane, and, like, some of the Tories that split off to join the independent group, for example. In my region, my Tory MP from a couple years back, she was a doctor treating lepers in Nigeria, and she went to Gaza to work there and stuff, like treating Palestinian people. So obviously, do you think you'd ever get a Republican senator or congressman who'd went to Gaza to treat people? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not the same thing. And obviously, a lot of conservatives believe in the NHS. They believe in saying the EU and everything like that. So conservatives aren't the Republican equivalent, but a lot of Tories have the same sort of symptoms as Republicans because of lots of different things, but racism's a big one that infects both of them. Looking down on poor people is another one. That's just a symptom of being rich, isn't it? I guess. So in some ways, but I don't think it's a good comparison. If you're trying to describe the situation to America, I don't think the Tories compare. The Tories are comparable to the Democrats more than the Republicans, I say, because Republicans are just insane sometimes. Like, they've been so, well, a lot of them believe it, like all that shit about Ayn Rand, Paul Ryan, Donald Trump, all those people, and just crazy Christianity about the end times. Mike Pompeo believe in literally like, Israel is essential to to start and the end of the world and fucking shit like that. Like, you'd never get that in England. Republicans are simply insane, Veronica. And, and another thing about Republicans, they worship rich people. Tories are rich people, but you couldn't get a billionaire prime minister like Trump, because Trump in England just couldn't exist. Because I think what people can all agree on in this country is that rich and stupid isn't a good combo. They've been called a death cult. Sorry. Yeah, I'd say some Republicans definitely are part of that death cult if they think Israel is essential to the end of the world, and they're clamoring for the end times. I definitely see that. But yeah, so that's the thing. I think British people wouldn't be able to stand someone like Trump, to be honest. And people who say bring Trump over here, they're just racist, and they might be pretty stupid. But I think in general, Trump is so stupid, and no one could believe someone that wealthy and that out of touch is for anyone. Like I was saying, the good comparison is Nigel Farage, but Nigel Farage is a lot smarter because it does a good impression of being working class, going to these pubs, drinking beer, talking like he's for the people, when in reality he's also a millionaire and everything. But he plays it way better. Whereas Trump is like, how can you believe someone like that cares about you? Oh yeah, that Republican dude. What's his name? I was so disappointed to see Chris Evans, Captain America, met with him. Like, come on, what the fuck? The same way Rosario Dawson's now going out with Cory Booker. That is like a literal disgrace. How can you be so passionate about Bernie Sanders and Bernie Sanders issues and then go out with Cory Booker? That is so crazy to me. And how the hell did they even meet? People have no principles anymore, man. Like, I could not go out with someone who's so fundamentally like wrong with, like, if there's a girl and she's like, I am like a super right wing Tory, even if we got on really well, I'm like, fuck no, am I going out with you? And that's what I can't understand. No, I think they reported that they're in love or some shit like that. Yeah, he probably is saying sweet nothings. I don't know. Can't understand it, man. Like, someone like her. Yeah, he did, but what she says and what she was saying, like, on the Bernie campaign and in general on Instagram, she should be able to see through that. He's still a corporate hack like the rest of them. Kamala Harris and Cory Booker picking bits off of Bernie's platform is just to try and steal votes from him, really. Justin Trudeau, he seems okay. He seems like a tryhard. Like when he said, what was that thing? It was like a pronoun, like he or she, and he was like people. Oh, what, genital people or something stupid like that. Someone correct me on that. I don't remember exactly what it is. Okay, thank you, Mama. Past the Orcs. Yeah, follow me on Instagram if you want to keep on my videos. I need to start posting on there about when I'm uploading, because a lot of my followers aren't really active on YouTube, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, it's always disappointing when someone lets you down. Like next we'll know Susan Sarandon will be going out, I don't know, with Clint Eastwood or something. People kind, yes, that's it. I don't think it was meant to be a joke, to be honest. I think it's just kind of cringeworthy. Yeah, Cuomo just reminds me of a gangster, like him and is it his brother or his son who's the anchor? Is it on CNN or something? Yeah, Cuomo is like everything that's wrong with politics as well. Just corporate hackers, saying stuff to get votes. I wish Cynthia Nixon won the election, but sadly she didn't. But you got to push people left in these issues sometimes, because Bernie Sanders has changed the whole conversation, hasn't he? Like, think about what they were saying in 2016. You couldn't even make Hillary Clinton support Medicare or whatever it's called for all, and now everyone kind of has to, apart from that little freak Beto, trying not to support it, or Elizabeth Warren to an extent. So that's what you kind of need sometimes, someone who will just change the conversation completely. And that's why I'm so happy there's people like Bernie and hopefully Tulsi Gabbard. But if someone can enlighten me, someone was saying that she was trying to defend torture the other day. If anyone could inform me on that, because people were telling me to make a video on her, and if she's done something like that, that would really, mess up my opinion of her, because I've watched a lot of what she said about anti-interventionism and being, not acting as the world police and not wasting money and lives. Yeah, I saw it the other day. Oh, thank you, Anzo, for the nice comment. 2014, okay. Thanks for letting me know. I'll check it out if I make a video on her. One thing to look out for though, I'm gonna make a video on Joe Biden and how fucking creepy he's been, because I think after like Me Too and stuff, we can't tolerate the stuff he's done. Like if that was Donald Trump, if Donald Trump had publicly done what Joe Biden did, everyone would be so angry. But I don't know why we're giving Joe Biden a pass. He shouldn't run anyway because he's got awful policies and an awful track record. But at the same time, what he's done in public, oh, it's so awful, man. Yeah, she's only 40, isn't she? Hot take. So if we can forgive Hillary Clinton for not supporting gay marriage for years and years and years, surely we can forgive Tulsi Gabbard for that. So basically, Joe Biden, just type it in creepy Uncle Joe. He just touches up women really bad in public, especially even little kids and stuff. It's really fucked up. Yeah, I can try my face. That's a good point. She doesn't really talk much about anything else in foreign policy. Yeah, Anza, that's a good point. I wish he could just get destroyed. But yeah, I'm gonna make a video about all this stuff he's been doing. It's so sickening. Like I watched the Twitter thread, and it was by like some Republican hack, but at the same time, it's video evidence, and I'm watching it, and it's just so fucking creepy. So, yeah, I think we should do better as a society, and you don't want another like Michael Jackson situation, or even Donald Trump. Like, you just tolerate these people, when you find out all this shit they do later, and you're like, for fuck's sake, like we should have done better. What's my opinion on the New Zealand shooting? Yeah, obviously my opinion is that people like PewDiePie are like a gateway to the alt-right, and it's part of like the emergence of white supremacy really online has helped perpetrate this, and people like Joe Rogan help this as well by having people like Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, who I think they're all gateways to the alt-right, and then so is PewDiePie, and then PewDiePie shouting out like white supremacist channels on his live streams and stuff. I think it's all part of indoctrinating these people. No, I clicked on it today. I need to watch the whole thing. I was actually going to make a video on it myself, but I thought it was a bit too hot, the issue, when I was thinking about it. But yeah, I need to check it out, definitely. Because, the thing with PewDiePie, if you're making jokes about the Holocaust, you're making something funny that most Americans don't even understand. Like, I think, isn't it, most Americans don't know what Auschwitz is. And if you're making little kids believe something like that is a funny joke, and like kill all Jews is a funny joke, Nazi talking points are funny jokes, it really sanitizes the issue. It makes it seem less serious. And then it's just an easy way through memes. Like, if you go on PewDiePie submissions on Reddit, they're all just doing memes about saying the N-word and stuff, and they all think it's absolutely hilarious, or like give PewDiePie the N-word pass and shit like that. Like, it's taking like a super serious word and a super serious issue and making it a joke, and it's not surprising little kids, are so stupid they can make jokes about these things all day. They get influenced to become part of the alt-right. So it's mainly a problem with online and white supremacy, and it's really, I don't know if it's, if Donald Trump's totally responsible, but it plays into the resurgence of white supremacy with his presidency. What did Ben Shapiro say? I think Young Turks debunked it. What was he saying about it? I absolutely hate Ben Shapiro, man. Someone said I sound like a smart Ben Shapiro, which I think is like a backhanded compliment, because he's like a little midget with like a really annoying voice. He blames the president for the gun ban. The gun ban they just did, do you mean? You don't talk fast enough. Oh. He is slime, yeah, he is. And what I love about Ben Shapiro, facts don't care about your feelings, but I literally believe in Judaism, ancient myths about some crazy god who's going to bring the end of the earth happening. Recommend. Yeah, Anza, I've seen a lot of his channels on BreadTube on Reddit, so I'll check them out. Yeah, that's a really stupid point by Ben Shapiro, because it's the same one they use in America. Because hey, Mama Pulse the Orcs. I'm actually playing Red Dead 2 again, but I'm playing it all through on first person. I'm actually going to play it after the stream, to be honest. Yeah, such a good game. But Witcher 3 is still my favourite. Okay, yeah, I'll go check out those channels and stuff. I'll go back through the comments when I've done this stream and have a look at all your suggestions. Sorry, one sec, my mouse really dry. But yeah, it's ridiculous. But Ben Shapiro, I don't know if he's funded by the NRA or he's just like a stupid libertarian, but in this country we had a mass shooting in Scotland and then we banned all guns as well. Australia did it as because the thing is, you look at the UK, like we're a fifth of your population, but times our mass shootings by five, it's still like zero over the last 10 years, and then the times our gun homicides, everything like that. So we do have some gun shootings in the UK sometimes from gangs and stuff. It's not like how many Americans die from gun violence every year is like 30,000 or something. So sorry. So it is way different, and why Americans are so stupid? It's like you're literally paying, you're paying for your stupid guns with dead kids, basically. Yeah, I know. People are stupid. Like I think the internet goes to show most people are stupid because the difference between how popular left wing channels and right wing channels are, like Stephen was it Crowder or your Ben Shapiro. It's like these people are total fucking idiots. Like their arguments are so you could just debunk them so easily, and it's insane how prominent they are, which is depressing. But yeah, as terms of the gun thing, you look at the UK, you look at Japan, you look at Australia, and now you look at New Zealand. You see what they're doing, and you're like, this prevents gun deaths because when someone is angry and wants to lash out, they'll have to use a knife. And I hate this argument. If I don't use a gun, they'll use a van. If I don't use a van, they'll use a knife. Yeah, well, you can't actually mass shoot someone with a knife, and someone can disarm you because you have to get in really close. And one knife stab does not kill someone a lot of the time. So yeah, I think it's bad right wing terrorism, and there's a double standard. Like I remember, do you remember in Times Square when that Navy veteran like drove a car into a bunch of people, and it was just after that was happening in the UK, and it was like non-stop media coverage. It was like, oh, religion of peace, people commenting in the comments, and it turns out it was a Navy veteran, but I never heard a follow up. So I was like, oh, what happened there? So a couple of days later, I typed it in, and I never saw it because it wasn't all spread on the news. The same time in Germany, the Borussia Dortmund, who's the second best football team in Germany, their bus got hit by a pipe bomb. When the bomb went off, it's all over the news. Oh, Borussia Dortmund team bus hit by a bomb in Germany, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, Muslim strike again!" Blah blah blah. And then I didn't even remember. I didn't follow up because I never saw it. So I type it in like a month later, like what was happening. It turns out it was like some stockholder in the club trying to increase his profits. But again, when they thought it was a Muslim, it was everywhere. Like you couldn't escape this news. And when they found out who did it, it's like, yep, silence. We don't care about that anymore. It's not sensationalized enough because it's a random crazy white guy doing it instead of a crazy Muslim who we can pretend is part of ISIS. Because that's the problem, especially in the UK. Most of these attacks aren't actually done by ISIS. Most terrorist attacks done by Muslims in the UK are from Muslims who are either born and lived here all their lives or raised here. It's not from jihadis coming back from Syria and doing it, which is another point you were talk about how people get radicalized. Yeah, white supremacist terror is the biggest killer, in terms of terrorism in America. Apart from take 9/11 out of the equation, it's not even close. All these loads of these mass shooters in schools and everything. Oh man, that's so bad. Mama passed the aux, and that one thing should be enough. Like one mass shooting should be enough, and it is in a lot of places. Like we had Dub Lane in Scotland. Andy married a tennis player. He was actually there when it happened. He was a kid in that school, which is so fucked up. But we had that, and then we banned guns for the most part. Like my friend owns a gun, but you have to have it like bolted to your wall. People have to go check it. Yeah, UK-born Muslims are inspired, yeah, by radical Islamic groups overseas, and they're also obviously groomed and shit as well. Like there are some mosques in this country that are funded by more right-wing conservative countries like Qatar and Saudi Arabia and everything. Yeah, like in Parkland, those two kids just killed themselves because of PTSD suffered from the shooting. That should be enough, A black church getting shot up. Is it Waco, Texas, and Columbine? Like, how much does this have to go on? Like, I read about the first big mass shooting is at Texas Tech University in 1965. It's when they invented the SWAT team afterwards. It's just some guy just shooting up the whole campus, and then how many years does that have to go on? Like this just doesn't happen in any other civilized and developed country. Wacko. What would you say? I was only pronouncing it because Kings of Leon said it in a song like that, and they're from around there, maybe Tennessee or something. Yeah, the US isn't oligarchy really. Waco. Okay, Waco, Texas. That's where Terrence Malick is from as well. Sort of, yeah, Evan. So, a guy who ran a chip shop where I used to go to school joined ISIS. um, actually, because where I went to school is pretty diverse. In London, it actually has quite a big Muslim population, like Pakistani and some others, Afghanis and stuff like that. So actually, there's been a lot of people who've joined ISIS from where I went to school, which is quite depressing. But what can you do really? It's just come to expect it. We do have a massive Muslim population in this country. It's crazy. The UK has more Muslims in it than the US does, and obviously a large chunk of US Muslims are actually African American rather than all being from Central Asia or the Middle East. But I think there is something to be said about the weird relationship between left-wing parties in both the UK and the US and Islam and stuff. It's kind of a strange one because in the UK we just had a bunch of Muslim parents, like 400 Muslim parents, protesting a school because their gay headmaster was trying to teach primary school children about LGBT rights and stuff. And then because Muslims are very conservative a lot of the time in this country, but they vote left wing, they vote for Labour because of social policies and things like that. You have this weird thing where you don't get Labour politicians calling out massive homophobia by parents, saying that they don't want their kids indoctrinated in LGBT and shit like that. And I think it's a super strange relationship that conservative people vote left wing and the left wing people don't criticise them when they act conservative. It is a very strange relationship. And I think it's one people need to do more to address because, obviously I'm against Islamophobia. I'm obviously against discrimination of Muslims. Muslims have it hard in the UK and the US, but at the same time, if you're caught in their vote and then you're not, trying to help them understand how our societies are different and everything, I think it is a problem. Yeah, that is crazy how easy to sneak a gun into school. And hot take, I think actually U.S. Muslims are a bit different to U.K. Muslims because also a lot of them are in cities and also a lot of them are African American, so it is a bit different in terms of diversity. Whereas in England, a lot of them are kind of recent immigrants from Middle Eastern countries or Central. Yeah, you have evangelicals. I think the evangelicals and the UK Muslims might find some common ground actually. And I think fundamentalist Muslims in like Saudi Arabia have a lot more in common with some evangelical white Christians than they do with some other Americans, which I find it quite funny. But yeah, it's always a weird one. As someone who really doesn't like religion, I always find it a bit disappointing if like Jeremy Corbyn doesn't stand up for gay rights in the face of all these Muslim parents telling this gay headmaster he can't teach his pupils about LGBT. Okay, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Most built up places have a large immigrant slash Muslim population a lot of the time. But yeah, one of my best friends is Muslim, and we have a good chats about this stuff. Especially she's from Egypt, talking about things like Israel and everything, and how the Arab world view them. There was a bomb threat in your school. Oh shit, man! I've never had anything like that. But I was thinking when I go to the US, people tell me in the comments, are you so desensitized that you don't fear, like you never think about it? Like if I went to a cinema in the US, I'd be like, shit, like this could be shot up. Or if I went to like a concert, or I even went to like a school and stuff, I'd be like, oh fucking hell, like is this gonna be shot up one day? Because I'd think about that all the time, and I guess it's because you might live in a culture where it's kind of accepted now, like you've become so desensitized to it, you expect it, but it is really scary. Like, I'd be thinking about that all the time. So hot take, Muslims tend to be more liberal. Yeah, I think some if a lot of them are Muslims who come from Iran, obviously fleeing the Iranian Revolution, which got hijacked by Islamists. And if you're brought up in the middle class in Iran, say before that, and you're pretty secular, you would become quite a compatible ally for left wing people if you move to the West. Oh yeah, that's crazy. Like I can't even imagine being like that even being in my mind. Like, oh, this might be shot up by some nutcase one day. I've got to train for it. Like, that is so crazy. Like, it's depressing. Like, even like we have bad knife crime here, and I love it when people always say to me, "Oh, you have knife crime," and it's like, yeah, we do, but I don't think about when I'm at work, someone's gonna come in and stab me. Yeah, mum and past dogs. That's a good point, and people could say it's irrational based on the stats, but so many people are killed in mass shootings compared to other countries. It's like, how can you not think about it? You could always be the next one, and it's not like limited to anywhere really, is it? Like, I guess some cities might not have it as bad. Like, you don't hear about mass shootings in California and New York all the time. It's more like places you've never really heard of. A lot of, and come on, that Las Vegas shooting. How can there not be any regulation after that? How was it, like 200 people or 500 people were injured? How can you have a guy like shooting, like, the bump stock makes it like a machine gun from like a 600 people? That is insane. And 50 people died, and there's no change to the laws. You're just like, okay, that's fine because we love guns so much and we're so corrupted by oh really, that's so bad. They died in another mass shooting in Las Vegas. Like, how can that be acceptable? How can you not look at that? Like, half the country, I know a lot of the country wants some sort of gun reform, like background checks, but it needs to be more extreme than that. And I think it's more divided, like down the middle, on like taking guns away. In my opinion, if I was in the US, I'd want all guns apart from handguns and shotguns to be taken away, with the goal of taking away handguns as well, and do what the New Zealand are doing. Buy the AR-15s of everyone, and if they don't give them to you, then if they're ever found with it, then you throw the book at them. You put them in jail. That's what I would do. Oh, okay, Thousand Oaks. Yeah, that is mental. So I'm just reading the comments. Yeah, I guess America's built on genocide and shootings and stuff, isn't it? Really. Yeah, police murdering African Americans is another one. American friend. Mama passed. Oh, that is so insane. Yeah, Veronica. An actor made the Get Out actor made a weird point the other day. He said racism is the same in the UK and stuff, and I was thinking, we are a racist country in a lot of ways, but like, is it really the same? Like, I've never even heard. Um, you know, yeah, I don't blame you, to be honest. Like, I have some black friends and stuff, and they say the police treat them badly, and I definitely believe them. Yeah, but like that guy saying, I was like, I don't think it's the same in the UK, to be honest. Cho, you're probably better off asking someone else that question, because I'm not black and I don't know any black Americans. I know some black British people. What's the difference between them? Well, I'll tell you a factual difference is that most black people in the UK aren't descendants from slaves brought to the UK. So a lot of them are actually from Africa, and some are from the Caribbean as well. So obviously, everyone who's black in the Caribbean actually is a slave descendant as well. But I mean, most black people in the UK weren't brought over to the UK as slaves. Is my main point. So because they're part of the Commonwealth. So after World War Two, we said to a lot of the black countries, like, we need your help to rebuild Britain, because 400,000 British men had died, loads more injured. So we needed more people to come and rebuild. So we said, come from Ghana. Yeah, Windrush is obviously very racist, but yeah, that's sort of the origins of Windrush. These people coming over after the war, and then people from Ghana, Kenya, places like that. So it's different. It's the racism isn't the same, because the racism against black people was a pushback to black immigration here. It's not institutionalized, complete institutionalized racism based on slavery days. It's not that. And we also outlawed the slave trade in 1832, and we didn't have a massive war about it. But yeah, Windrush is obviously the same as like that ICE shit. It's like deporting people who've lived here for like 40, 50 years, because their documents aren't in order and shit. Like, sending them back to the countries they've never lived in. which is crazy racist, and I can't believe that didn't do in the government. And Amber Rudd, how can she be back in the government in a different position? That should, if that was Jeremy Corbyn, if Windrush happened on Jeremy Corbyn, do you think anyone would let him forget it? Yeah, it is a bit of subtle shade from him, but I think it shows the point that Britain, as racist as it is not the same as America. Yeah, no, I control my fate. Black people have been in America more than traditional Americans today. So black people were first brought over by the Spanish and Portuguese in the late 1400s. So they've been there a lot longer. Yeah, I'm Calvis's brother, but yeah, my B merch he gave me. It's actually a pretty nice hoodie, to be honest, if you think about getting one. Um, but he gave it to me for free, obviously. I'm not paying for my own brother's clothing line. But yeah, the US and UK, it is interesting. The racism here, like racism against Irish was common in both countries, to be honest, because I don't think people really realise how bad it was for Irish people, even up until like the 90s and shit. Like, I don't know if anyone's seen In the Name of the Father of Daniel Day-Lewis, but just like picking up like a random Irish family and blaming them for an IRA bomb and putting a gun in their mouth to get a confession is mental. And anti-Irish racism was so bad. And obviously, I was reading the other day, British soldiers killed more Irish civilians than IRA killed civilians in the Trouble period, which is like late 60s to the late 90s. So, this country is fucked, and the way we treated Ireland for how many years? 500 years is awful. Yeah, I love the Scottish too, but people kind of get Scotland. They have a bit of a misconception with Scotland. So William Wallace and Robert the Bruce and everything. That's like the 1300s, and they did get their independence. Became more right within the ones that stayed. History of the UK. Yeah, Veronica, that's true about English people. But yeah, but what happened is we had this royal family called the Tudors, and then Elizabeth I, who you might have heard of, Spanish Armada and all that. She died without an heir, and then James VI of Scotland became became king of England and Scotland. So Scotland rejoined sort of in a way, and then in 1700, Scotland tried to make a colony in Panama but went bankrupt. So it voluntarily joined back with England, so it became the United Kingdom for the first time. Yeah, UK history is focused on English history, no doubt. Really, like you don't learn about Scottish history in school. You don't learn about Irish history to an extent. I learned about Irish history in sixth form, about famine, about home rule, about the origins of the IRA and everything. One of my relatives is one of the top members of the IRA during the Easter Rising in 1916. He actually signed the Declaration of Independence and he planned it. He got executed for it. He had polio, so he couldn't fight. But yeah, I have all my grandparents are Irish. I am pretty much, if my grandparents were all like African and stuff, no one would question if I was Irish or not. But a lot of people are like, oh no, you're English because you got English accent and you're born in England and stuff. But a lot of the time, I don't consider myself English just because fucking England, man. Fuck some of the English people. Like, I love London and stuff, and London's a great city, but London's way different to a lot of England. Yeah, not enough colonial history is taught in school. Jeremy Corbyn was pushing for that, and yeah, you're right. The history is written by the victors in a lot of cases, and not in the sense that only histories are written by the victors, but the histories you are taught are chosen by the victors. So, for example, there's a lot of history written about from the losing side. There's a lot of Irish historians, there's Scottish historians, but you learn about the English ones, the ones who are victorious, and that's why your view is so swayed. Like the way we learn about Marxism in the UK educational system is really bad because it automatically makes you hostile to it because, in my opinion, when you learn about Marxism, you should learn about Marxism then 1848 and those revolutions. You shouldn't learn about Marxism and then just jump into the Soviet Union because then in your mind from a young age, 14, 15, you just associate Marxism with totalitarian Stalinism. But if you went back and said, this is when Karl Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto, this is when all these revolutions in Europe took place because of what he'd written and because of how people were being exploited, and then that's what you should associate Marxism was, people rising up against capitalist oppression, not Stalin doing the purges and putting like loads of Jews in gulags and shit like that. Because I think implicitly and insidiously it's designed to make people think communism equals this, while capitalism equals this. Yeah, but sociology, how old were you when you learnt that? What do I think of the American War of 1812? Yeah, no, Anzo, that's a perfect point, and that's really speaking to what I was saying. What do I think of the American War of 1812? Doing it now, but so I'm guessing you're doing your A levels. I think A levels is good, and it's more adult, but it's more broad at GCSE and earlier levels and everything. So what was it? 1812. Obviously Britain won that war, but for some reason Americans think they won that war. You know, we literally burnt down the White House, and Canada stopped you from invading Canada, and then you somehow say that's a victory. Why? You know, it's crazy. Like, you literally invaded Canada, who didn't even have a proper army, and they repelled you with like some like farmers and like ranchers, and then the British helped. And the only reason British agreed to surrender is because they were fighting the fucking Napoleonic War. So they were fighting Napoleon and you at the same time, and then they beat both of you. Like, I don't like, you know, all this arguing about who's right about history and stuff, but it is kind of funny how these myths in America is like, America won the War of 1812. What do I think of the American Revolution in 1776? I want to make a video on this actually, but basically I think Americans have mythicized it so much. I think I think Howard Zinn said this, whoever's telling me to read Howard Zinn earlier, that the American Revolution was literally one oligarchy replacing another. The founding fathers didn't believe in the equality of all races and humans. They believed in like the supremacy of white, essentially people who were like them. I know they weren't traditional Christians. I know they had enlightened views, a lot of them. But at the same time, they were all rich, white, Christian landowners who owned slaves, who owned giant plantations like George Washington and his brother and everything. They were all people, a lot of the time, who did genocide against natives like George Washington used to before he led the revolution. And you mythicize it saying, you know, what is good about America, right? When you, in hindsight, when you read a Declaration and you read a Bill of Rights and stuff that's informed our own human rights stuff, that's all great, right? In 2019 thinking, when you read that and you think, if someone came out with this today, that's really good. But I don't think people think about the context in which it was written. Sure, it was during the period of Enlightenment, but thinking that these people who owned so many slaves thought that black people were equal and everything is crazy. I know George Washington freed his slaves when he died and stuff in his will, but these were like people who they hadn't thinking of the time, and I think America needs to reconcile a lot of this with itself to move forward, because what if everyone is equal in your founding document in 1776 or whatever, or whenever the war was over, 1783, why did you then have to fight a giant war to free the slaves? And how come, if America was founded, was it 13 colonies to start with, why did it then expand and expand and expand? And why did you do more genocide and more genocide if you're really adhering to the founding principles of your country? But that's not what it is. And yeah, I think Thomas Jefferson's a good example of what I'm talking about. But also, here's another one. Americans think they're anti-imperialist as well. They think, for some reason, because they overthrew British control of the colonies, they think they're anti-imperialist. So if America's anti-imperialist, why is a territory that, you know, was won during that war? Yeah, I never said Jefferson freed his slaves, but that's an interesting point. I don't know if you were responding to me saying Washington frees the slaves. So America expanded all across the continent, took away territory that belonged to Mexico. Then it said to the British in the Monroe Doctrine, you don't touch America anymore, so we can just mess with Latin America, install our dictators, install our leaders, you know, make Cuba, Puerto Rico and stuff like that, basically colonies, because Puerto Rico is still treated like a colony. Cuba used to be the same. You know, the Philippines belonged to the US as well, basically. But North abolished slavery. Yeah, Britain didn't abolish slavery till later on. They abolished the slave trade in 1832. Okay, sorry, I'm missing some of your comments. I'm trying to get... let me see if I can get them all up quick. There we go. Oh, nice, I got them all up now. Let's just say... Yep, Puerto Rico is a colony. Anzo says, secret intelligence, all do the same thing. Oh man, Mac Berg, that is insane. I don't think you should have done that, but, you know, who do I think the US is the best president in the US? So let me just, I don't know why it keeps doing this to me. I want to see every comment. I don't want to see just the new ones. Alright, so 1 sec. So Macberg says, what do you think the best US president is? Keep the videos, and I think you're trying to grow a lot. Man, that is so, I appreciate that so much. Thanks for the $5. It's way too much, man. Basically, the best president, I'd say, is, it's a hard one. FDR probably is the best one. He's not my favourite, obviously, but, you know, what he did for America, everything they've got today, you can kind of say, you know, is down to him in a lot of ways. So I got all the comments up on my phone now instead. This should be better. So FDR, you know, he won World War II for America, got him out of depression, New Deal, all these welfare programs, you know, that were people would consider socialist today. You know, he's great president. I also like, I think that first Roosevelt gets way too much credit for the imperialist he was. People saying he's anti-racist and everything. I like Lincoln as well. I like Jimmy Carter, but you know, getting peace between Israel and Egypt, probably one of the biggest foreign policy achievements of the last 50 years. I like Robert Kennedy, even though he wasn't president, but I know it's a bit hypocritical because, you know, he comes from the elite, he comes from a rich family and everything. So I'm just reading some more comments. So Sylvia, the Americans wiped out indigenous people on the western borders during the Revolution. Yeah, so Sylvia, it's interesting. I don't know if you're aware of this. The British actually promised the natives, if they fought for them, they would give them their own country in Canada. So I think that's an interesting point. And the British, a lot of the time, I know obviously a lot of these people were British who did the genocide as well, but they had some interesting guy. There's a guy in Assassin's Creed 3 that you kill, and we did him in history, and he's really famous for learning all the native language and just learning to communicate with them. So I think a lot of people in England did really respect the natives, and I think American, you know, stuff like fundamentalist Christianity, Manifest Destiny, and all that shit really contributed to, you know, their genocide and everything, and it's really, really sad to see. And Chol, I think it is debatable who was better. I'd say FDR was better, to be honest. Yeah, and they had to basically term limits to stop FDR from being president anymore. You know, Lincoln's great for winning the Civil War and getting rid of slavery and everything. I'd agree with that. But, you know, FDR, World War II, depression, all the social reforms, you know, America's on its knees, everything like that. I think FDR is better, in my opinion. What else we got? There would be no America without Abraham Lincoln. Okay, yeah, he didn't serve his whole third term or fourth term because he obviously died. I forgot what he died of. Some illness, probably he's just very old. Here's a question for the comments. Who is a worse president? I've got two for you. Nixon versus Reagan, who's the worst, and Trump versus George Bush Jr. I'd like to know what people think of that. I think Nixon is one of the worst, but I think Watergate is not as bad as around Contra. Reagan is worse than Nixon. I'd be interested to hear why you think that. But Nixon, here, I'll put my argument out for Nixon. Nixon promised he'd bring peace in Vietnam. He back-channeled with President Phu in Vietnam, or Phu, or whatever, how you pronounce it, saying that if he kept rejecting Johnson's deal, he'd get a better deal with Nixon. And what people, I think it's half the casualties of Vietnam, half the deaths in Vietnam occurred when Nixon was president. It's not all under Johnson, which people have a misconception. And also Nixon did the biggest bombings of Vietnam, Linebacker 1 and 2, used all his chemical weapons, started all these wars in like Cambodia and Laos and stuff. So I would say, and he also started up the surveillance state, all this stuff about infiltrating the Black Panthers, killing them, and killing Fred Hampton and stuff like that. I'd say Nixon is worse than Reagan, but I think what Nixon got busted on, Watergate, is not even worse than anything Trump has done, and it's Iran-Contra is so much worse than what Nixon did, essentially, what he got busted on. So let's see what the comments are saying. Trump, Reagan and W, Abraham Lincoln. So I'll give you an argument for why George Bush is worse as well. So Donald Trump is obviously awful, right? And what he says is awful, and he's way more racist and everything. But what has Trump actually done, apart from some things like caging kids in borders and drone strikes, which are just an extension of Obama's policies in a lot of ways, right? George Bush, what did he do? Invade Afghanistan, occupy Afghanistan, invade Iraq based on lies, occupied it. How many Americans have died in those wars? Who's watched the financial crash come under? George Bush as well. Not always completely his fault. It's just American capitalism at the end of the day. But all these things, Hurricane Katrina, what was that all about? Because so many black people were stranded in New Orleans. You can't help them. All of that is far, far worse. With Trump, you got foreign policy. I don't know, quite bad, but not the worst ever. ICE stuff, that's really bad. Emergence of white supremacy, which is really bad. I think Trump is a worse cultural force. George Bush was fundamentally a worse person and a worse president. Yeah, I can see an argument for Reagan, but I think that a better matchup maybe Reagan versus Trump, because I just don't think Nixon is worse. It is better than Reagan, even though Nixon was a very intelligent president. He just did so many fucked up things. Reagan, yeah, he loved rich white people and he was a rich white person. Yeah, Reagan started the war on drugs. Reagan's Latin American policy with the Contras and everything. Yeah, I guess Reagan, you can point to Reagan for starting the current system and also sort of unleashing and cultivating this insane white Christianity and making it a political force, I guess. Nixon was also associated with the CIA and South American Run. Yeah, Nixon did all that shit. Corbyn versus Sanders. Yeah, Nixon started the war on drugs. Yeah, Macberg, I can see your thinking with that as well, because it depends. I'm sort of doing, in my opinion, who killed more, I guess, is my judgment, and Nixon's killed way more than Reagan, obviously. Reagan didn't have, Grenada, Lebanon, are the two ones, but then obviously he's meddling in Latin America and everything. But the culture Reagan created, like this Fox News culture, even though it started with Nixon, it really cultivated under Reagan. So, yeah, Southern Strategy. There's a good Arcade Fire song called Culture War about that. But it's a hard one. They're all so bad. Who do we pick? Andrew Jackson. That's really funny because Trump says Andrew Jackson was his favourite president. Of course, racist Trump says president who did the Trail of Tears is his favourite. What music do I listen to? So, at the moment, I'd say my favourite... I like rock and bands mostly, so my favourite bands at the moment are probably Radiohead, Kings of Leon. Who else do I like? I used to really like Coldplay as a kid. I'm not really into them anymore. Block Party, they're a British band. Biffy Clyro, Scottish band. The XX are an English band, but they're not rock, but I really like them as well. Let me get my playlist up quick. Linkin Park are okay. Mumford & Sons are alright. A lot of Radiohead I listen to lately, though. Gorillaz as well. I like them a lot. M83, mainly because I use songs in Mr. Robot with them. The Killers, I really gotten back into lately. Some other ones here and there, I guess. Bon Iver, I really love them as well. I'm going to see them in June. Who else? I think that's pretty much everyone. So Phil Collins and some classic stuff like that as well. I always like. Just started listening to Smashing Pumpkins lately. The Strokes, I like that one song, Reptilia. I think because it was in Guitar Hero. No, Neville Chamberlain versus Theresa May. Keane got back together for this year. Oh, that's interesting. My mum really likes Keane. You see them soon. I haven't heard of Scar, whatever that rest of the line is. I haven't heard of that band. Chamberlain versus Theresa May. Honestly, I'd say Theresa May. Munich and shit was bad, but Neville Chamberlain, I think Churchill offered him to be in the cabinet and stuff still, but obviously appeasement is really, really shit. I don't honestly know enough about Neville Chamberlain's general policies as a whole to really make that comparison. But I think Theresa May and David Cameron are going to be remembered as two of the worst prime ministers last 100 years, certainly. So bad, especially Theresa May. Like, it's literally all about power. It's power over everything, which is really, annoying. But see, there's some other people who had some comments, but who was worse? But yeah, well, there's one really interesting prime minister who I think's got a really bad rap, and I think he had a really interesting life. Is Anthony Eden. So basically, I don't know if any of you watched The Crown on Netflix, but the Suez Crisis, basically when Egypt took control of the Suez Canal, and basically the Suez Canal was created to make a quicker water route from India to Britain, basically, because we come into the Mediterranean. But basically, the Egyptians under General Nasser took it back, and that's where all our oil came from, the Suez Canal, and it came through the Suez Canal. So Anthony Eden got blamed for all of that because he thought that Nasser was like another Hitler and everything. Yeah, Andrew, that's a good point. But I guess the point is with Chamberlain is if he stood up to Hitler quicker, could World War Two have been, I don't know, not as bad as it was? Would have as many people needed to die? It's an interesting debate, really. But getting back to Anthony Eden, but his life is really interesting. He was the youngest officer to fight in World War One, and he fought in the whole 4 years of World War One, and then he was foreign secretary during Chamberlain's government. He met like with Mussolini, with Stalin, with Hitler, and then he was in the government again during the war. He's a super interesting politician, but he's been despised ever since the Suez Crisis, basically. Who's the bigger wanker, Tony Blair or David Cameron? Tony Blair, definitely. Like, Iraq War. If any of you, when I'm done with stream, I have a video called Harrow Hill. It's basically a little sort of like documentary. It's pretty long about Tony Blair and the Iraq War. And Harrow Hill is a song by Tom York, who's the leader of Radiohead, lead singer. And basically, this government scientist called Dr. David Kelly came out before the invasion of Iraq and said Iraq didn't have WMDs, but he was then found to have committed suicide on Harrow Hill, which is a park near his house. But what they found is the blood that they found there was not consistent with how he was meant to die, which is overdosing on pills and cutting his wrists. So they think the British government killed him. But if you just look into the causes of the war and how Tony Blair went along with it, even though Tony Blair was a way better prime minister, I just can't forgive him for the Iraq War and involving Britain in that and all the people who died needlessly for an imperialist war. Literally, that other country didn't join. It was just us and the US, pretty much. So David Cameron, Brexit versus Iraq War, David Cameron is obviously a worse prime minister overall. Sylvia, do you mean in terms to Tony Blair, what he could have done differently? Andrew, I just think Tony Blair is worse for the Iraq War. How can you be that stupid? Like, reading the evidence at the time, why would an Arab socialist dictator give fundamentalists, Islamic terrorists, nuclear weapons? Isn't that the most crazy thing you ever heard? Secular socialist Arabs giving terrorists. It's like the Democrats in America giving some like alt-right terrorist group nuclear weapons or something. That's how crazy it is. Chamberlain. Well, Hitler kept taking territory, and they agreed to let him have Czechoslovakia, like the Sudeten Germans and everything, and just keeping appeasing him with all these things, like saying he could take them because they were scared of him. Maybe because at that point, I know we think of France as quite weak, but no one knew that France would lose the war in a couple months and stuff. And if France, America maybe, because America completely, creating the League of Nations and then leaving, if they helped us out a bit more, America and France and all these countries to stand up to him taking over places, would have war happened eventually? Yeah, it probably would have. But at the same time, they already occupied these places before, and it just longed out the war as well. Who's Frederick North? Is he a prime minister? I've never heard of him. I thought I had quite a good knowledge of British prime ministers. Evan, who has a horrible government? The French in the 30s. Yeah, the French is always a bit of a mess, to be honest. Like, it's weird they had communists in the government after the war, which was interesting in World War Two. But France in the 20s is super interesting, like leading towards fascism and shit like that. It's a very interesting country for all this politics stuff. It's so fucking complicated. And so, well, giving away half of Europe without a fight. Yeah, exactly. Like, they're too terrified of Germany, really. I'd wonder, it'd be interesting to read some papers from back then and see the reaction of the people. Because what people, I think, have to understand is that World War One was really hard on Britain and France in a way that it wasn't hard on America. So I think, is it 117,000 Americans died in the war, and obviously the American population is bigger, but 800,000 British soldiers died in the war. That is just like an unimaginable number. 20,000 British soldiers died in the first hour of the Somme. Can you imagine 20,000 in an hour? Like, it's just, you can't even imagine these numbers. And think of how much that devastates a country's culture and everything. Like 800,000, like the population was way smaller then. We have 50 million in England today. 800,000 young men, like 18 to 29, dying in the space of 4 years. And people just didn't want another war. And Americans didn't, and that's why they were hostile to come into World War Two. And American only had, was it like, way less than British casualties, and that's the effect it had on America. They didn't want to fight another war, and I think that was a hesitancy. Like Chamberlain, a lot of these people, like I was talking about, Anthony Eden was in the government. They fought in the war, and they saw how bad it was. They didn't want another war, and I think that informed a lot of their thinking with it and everything. What do I think of the rise of nationalism in Europe? I think it's just a symptom of this like neoliberalism that spread everywhere after the end of the Soviet Union. I think it's just a symptom of how that hasn't benefited everyone, and we turn to nationalism as humans when we just want easy answers to complicated problems, and we want something to blame and focus our anger on and everything. And the system isn't benefiting people. And Veronica's asking about the Yellow Vest protests, and that's just because Macron put a carbon tax on cars, which in principle sounds good, but a lot of the poor people use old cars to commute into Paris to work, and that obviously is going to make them worse off. And I respect the Yellow Vest, which, I don't know why the Yellow Vests are all right-wingers, but I respect the Yellow Vest taking to the streets and protesting, because at least the French know one thing, is that, peaceful protest doesn't do anything. Like in this country yesterday, I went up London just after the protest, I saw the protest, people coming home and everything, and I was like, it's great you all met and stuff. The same with Iraq, though. You're not going to change anything. 2 million people protesting the Iraq war didn't change anything, because they just do what they want, because that's the problem. This country doesn't realise that we put them in power, those politicians, and they serve us. And I think that's what the French are a lot better at throughout their history since World War Two. It's these riots and civil disobedience, reminding people, you work for us, and in the old days, if you didn't do what we wanted to, we'd kill you, basically. And then we're just reminding you, we have the power to shut down this, and we have the power to get rid of you if we want to. And Britain have always been, like, the French have been revolutionary. Come on, like, how many revolutions did they have in the 1800s? Just an insane amount, and I respect that a lot of the time, that they're so willing to do that, because in this country, I'm sure we'd happily let the UK government do anything, because we can't be bothered to protest like that. So I'm going to get to some of these comments. I've just been talking. Sorry. So, yeah, and I agree. Rise of nationalism is in part the rejection. I don't even think it's a rejection in so much as people have not benefited from neoliberalism. And if you read Fukushima talking about the end of history, where we're all just going to be in this neoliberal world order forever, and that's everyone will become that, I think it's gotten so wrong. DNC never looked back. Yeah, well, remember the DNC ran Ted Kennedy, who I really like, and Bobby Kennedy as well, but they ran Ted Kennedy to primary Jimmy Carter in 1980, showing you like how hostile fundamentally the Democrats and the Republicans are to an anti-interventionist president. And it says everything that, same with Obama and Trump, that, the response to someone who's super careful, super smart, reads up on everything, tries to keep America out of wars, tries to make America better, tries to tackle climate change, is some insane anti-communist actor as president who's going to just, inflate the arms budget, do all this crazy shit. Reagan was such a bad president, and it makes me sad for America that they had someone like Carter. And yeah, he got fucked with the economy, to be honest, like all this oil stuff happening when he was president, but can't really do anything about that. Was there a civil rights movement in England? like I was explaining before, I think because of our history, it's different because we never had institutionally racist laws like segregation and stuff. There's obviously a lot of black activism, and there was race riots as late as the 90s and stuff. Like, it's not been great and everything, but a civil rights movement wasn't needed because isn't civil rights meaning like getting equal rights? And black people never technically didn't have equal rights in this country, so I think there's no such thing as a civil rights movement here. But definitely black activism has been a thing for years. Uh, yeah, Anzo, it's a hard one because I guess it's when people aren't benefiting economically, they look for someone like Trump to promise them everything like that. But I don't think it's all down to that. I think that plays into it. But I think Fox News and this shit, I don't think it can be overlooked so much because it's so you know, it's so influential, the right wing corporate media in America, on these older voting blocks. And I think Christianity and that combined has just created this situation. And I think there's a lot of people in the country who probably did vote for Trump because how bad neoliberalism has let them down since Clinton. But at the same time, I think racism, brainwashing, all has their role to play in everything. Wait, say yay and do jazz hands. Is that what you asked me to do? Sorry, I'm waiting for this reply. But yeah, I think you obviously need to put. Yeah. Well, also, Anzo, if you read, I want to say something funny here. Thomas Jefferson edited a Bible and edited every supernatural miracle out of it. Can you imagine any conservative agreeing with that today? Can you imagine any candidate in America becoming the president if they edited a Bible and edited all the supernatural stuff out of it and then published it? Can you imagine that? Like, that is one of the founding fathers of America. George Washington always walked out during communion because he just didn't believe in a lot of this shit and stuff. Like, I'd say America was founded by people by the standard of the day who weren't conservative and pretty forward thinking. But I think because of the makeup of, you know, a lot of Christians who were too crazy for England after the Civil War came to America to practice their religion and everything like that. And I think that makes up a big part of it, and the conservatism and everything like that. And I think, you know, slavery and the Red Scares in 1919 and the Red Scare in the 1950s and everything, I think that all plays a role, just fear-mongering about, you know, authoritarian communism. Yeah, capitalism and conservatism go hand in hand, definitely. The governor talking about Trump cashing in. And yeah, new haircut. Well, every 2 months I just shave my head. And because I have a beard, it normally looks alright. But yeah, some of my videos, I've got a video as a backup that I might release next week. And I have my hair, so it might look a bit weird. Yeah, well, I control my fate. Most, you know, the Enlightenment was led by non-traditional Christians and deists. So George Washington, a lot of them were deists, which is believing in a higher power, but not necessarily believing in a Christian God. And yeah, I'm sure it'd be in a negative context. But you know, can you imagine Obama if they found out he'd edited all the miracles out of the Bible? No way to become president. Like, and isn't that crazy that he could do that, and that would mean he couldn't become president because this country is so fucked. And there's no open atheists in any elected position in the Congress or Senate. There's people like who's that bisexual woman? They call it like something weird like non-believer, but it's not like openly atheist, which is really strange to me. Yeah, founded by lunatics. Yeah, Anzo, if you go back, I made a video on that a while ago. It's called America Wasn't Founded on Judeo-Christian Ideals. I actually have a playlist called the Over 1K Club, and it's in that. So go check it out. It actually inspired a guy called, what's his name? He's way bigger than me. Rationality Rules. He watched that, and then he made his own video on it, and he said to me, like, oh, thanks for the great video and stuff, which is kind of good. Separate church and state. Yeah, but that's never really been, you know, separate church and state. Then Eisenhower putting in God We Trust on the coin. So Sylvia Smith, JFK was a Cold War warrior. His brother was better. Yeah, Bobby Kennedy. His evolution is pretty amazing. Like being a lawyer for Joe McCarthy during the Red Scare, and then being like this champion for civil rights. So much so, when Martin Luther King was killed 2 months before RFK was killed, they sort of looked to him as this sort of new leader of the civil rights movement. Not totally, but like a figure they could get behind as president. And it's so sad to me that he was killed by a Palestinian, like because Bobby Kennedy supported Israel during the Arab-Israeli conflict in 1967. But why would you kill the whole of America? Supported that conflict for the most part. The whole of the American elite. Why would you kill one of the only people really who has a chance for more peace in the world? You know what I mean? It's crazy that a Palestinian killed Bobby Kennedy. Really crazy. Mac Berg asks, do you wish there were more political parties in the UK, or do you think there could be too many, like in Belgium? I'm not sure how many Belgium have. So in the UK, the mainstream ones we have are Plaid Cymru, which is in Wales. We have the Tories, we have Labour, we have the Green Party, we have the Lib Dems, we have the SNP, we have the DUP, which is Northern Irish. We have Sinn Féin, which is Northern Irish but Catholic, but they don't take their seats in Parliament out of protesting the British government. And we have some other ones, but I don't think any others have seats. So UKIP is another one that has no seats. I don't know though. It's really hard. You could always have more parties, but I think we have a good proportion. But I think the problem is that the votes each party get don't sort of register with the makeup of Parliament. So for example, I think Parliament, if it's based on what people vote, should be Tories, Labour, UKIP, Green Party. And at the moment, it's Tories, Labour, Lib Dems, SNP, and DUP. So isn't it crazy that I think it's 3 million people vote for Green Party and UKIP don't have a seat, and Green Party have 1 seat. And that's sort of a failing of our democracy in a way, because I guess you can argue that because it's a parliamentary system, it's all meant to be local. So for example, in my region, if the Tories get more votes than Labour, that's the Tory seat. But I don't know, it's an interesting one. So Mac asks again, I mean more mainstream ones, unless it's a regional party, you only get... Yeah, Lib Dem's not even a good example, to be honest. They got less seats than the SNP, but yeah, Tory and Labour would... I guess I wouldn't mind a combined force. So maybe if we had Labour, SNP, I don't represent the same thing, and the Greens all come together to make a more powerful force would be good. But a lot of Labour are Blairites and centrists and neoliberals, so wouldn't work like that. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Do we need a bigger block of voters to really oppose the Tories? But I guess the way it works is that because these groups are often aligned, so the SNP, Labour, Green, all of them, they always vote against the Tories anyway, so it kind of defeats the purpose of them all becoming a unified party. Is there voter suppression in England like America? No, not the problem is what I explained. It's that your vote doesn't count towards your party having more seats. That's the problem. It's not like it's hard to vote. Like I voted in every election, no problem at all. Paper ballots as well, so you can't get hacked, and everything like that is good. And suppression is more about like gerrymandering and making it hard for people to vote and kicking off the electoral roll. And I don't think it's like that. The problem is it's not a representative democracy in the sense that, you know, the groups in Parliament with the most power don't necessarily have the most votes. So like I'm saying, Lib Dems, SNP, do not have more votes than the Greens and UKIP, but the SNP has 40 seats in the Commons, UKIP have none. So no electoral college. Basically, whoever becomes Prime Minister is just a leader who has the biggest group in Parliament. And what normally happens is, there's 2 things that can happen. So if you become the biggest party in Parliament, you sometimes have to ally with another party to get a majority, because you need a majority to get things passed. So for example, in 2010, the Tories were the biggest single party, but they had to make a government with the Liberal Democrats to get a majority. So that means that if all the Tories and all the Lib Dems vote for a piece of legislation, it gets through the Commons. And that's what you need to do sometimes. Otherwise, it's what party has the majority. So in 1997, Tony Blair got a majority. So if he has a piece of legislation, all the Labour vote for it and they get it passed. And that's how it works. And it's just the leader of the party. So for example, the Tory government at the moment is the same Tory government from 2010, even though it has a new prime minister. You don't need to get a new election. So basically, they have, when someone resigns, they have their own internal elections, and then they elect a new leader, and that's what happens. So it's not like electoral college aside and things like that. But I guess you could say the problems of electoral college are sort of similar to our problems of representative democracy. So Mac Berg asks again, have you heard about ranked choice voting? The state of Maine implemented it for congressional races and it prevents someone from winning in like votes in the vote. I think it would. Yeah, ranked choice would be interesting. I think, or do we have ranked choice? Well, I'm trying to think. There's something I voted on, but I ticked multiple boxes before. Oh, it's we have, so basically we have ranked choice for council elections. So every borough is run by a council, which is sort of like a mini parliament. It's sort of like your state's senate in America. I'm not sure how Belgium works, Matt Berg, but so when you're voting for your candidates, it says pick two, and you just pick two of them, and you pick your first choice, second choice. But that's only at a really local level, and maybe it could benefit at a more, you know, at a party seat level and everything, a seat for the Commons if you have ranked choice. I definitely think it would change the dimension a lot because in my region it's always Lib Dems or Tory, but maybe if we had ranked choice, Labour would get a bit more prominent. But it's interesting to think about. So, yeah, it's not too bad. So what's the time in the UK? Oh, shit. So it's 2:36. So if anyone's got any more questions, get them in quick, because I might stream for a couple more minutes and then go off. It's been a long one, and also really hungry. I only ate a bit of dinner and breakfast today, and I've done a lot of stuff. Chew, I wouldn't be surprised that interracial marriage is happening more often in the UK than the US, just because I guess most of the cities are multicultural. I think as a society, especially the last 20 years, we've become a lot more multicultural. Like everyone going to my school, it's still majority white, but there's many, many people who are non-white, and there's not really a stigma about it when you grow up with a lot of people your own race. Like I haven't, ironically, I've never, I guess I have dated some people outside my own ethnic group. Like I've went out with someone who's Albanian and stuff. But yeah, I know people. You know, I know some interracial couples myself, so I don't think it's a bigger deal. And also, we also never had laws against interracial marriage, so I think that's a big part. You know, the stigma just never goes away. In some cases, really does it. And in America, so many racial stereotypes of black people, for example, or Muslims. You know, for some white people, white parents, I guess it's so hard. And it's not even just a white thing. For example, like I know there's a lot of racial tension. There's a lot of racism between Asians and a lot of other groups. Oh, Mac Berg, stop donating. Legalize weed. Oh, I was talking about this the other day. But yeah, thanks so much for this money. I don't know what you shouldn't do it, man. don't waste your money on me. But yeah, so Mac donated $4.20 to see and legalize it. And in the UK, we're worse for drug legalization than in the US, which is insane to me because the drug lobby's got such a stranglehold on Parliament. So basically, the only party that want to legalise weed really is the Lib Dems, and we still have it as a high class drug. But the thing is, no one enforces the law, which is the main point of it. No one ever enforces the law of the police unless you have a significant amount. Like, I've never smoked weed in my life, and I never want to, but I'm all for the legalisation of it because it's just stupid not to. All the health benefits of people, things like arthritis and everything, like having to order it from like Holland and everything. Yeah, it probably isn't worse because we don't prosecute marijuana violations and things like that. But okay, the actual law is strict, but we don't prosecute. I think it's the main thing, and societally, it's tolerated. Like we had that massive thing in London where everyone just goes and smokes weed in 420, just in a massive park and stuff. And you're not going to get busted for it. And the police were all there just like supervising it. So people don't give a shit really about smoking weed. You'll never get arrested for it. But they will arrest drug dealers for it, which is a big point of it. But there probably isn't many people, I'd say no people in prison for non-violent marijuana offences, like you were carrying this much twice or something. I can't imagine. Sylvia, says that Sirhan, who was the killer of Robert Kennedy, said, "My only connection with Robert Kennedy was his sole support of Israel and his deliberate attempt to send those 50 bombers to Israel to obviously do harm to Palestinians." Yeah, Sylvia, so it's strange to me, isn't it? Like, does it play into the conspiracy that Robert Kennedy was murdered by the government, maybe, like Lyndon Johnson, or just rogue CIA agents, like, speculate that his brother was? It's a hard one to think, why would a Palestinian kill Robert Kennedy over anyone else? Like, why not kill Nixon? Why not kill Johnson? It's strange. So, Chew, what do British people think of Americans? Uh, well, like I was saying at the start of this live stream, I was saying I love American culture. I love American films. I love American TV shows. I love American music. General British people think most Americans are idiots because of the gun stuff, because of Trump, because of because of the outward racism. Where I was explaining earlier that it's low key racism in the UK. So yeah, I'd say we obviously know there's some good people in America. We know there's a lot of good people, a lot of rational people, some of the most talented people in like the entertainment industry, the music industry, all from America. So we love America in a lot of ways. We love American culture. We think generally, like stereotypically, we think Americans are loud idiots, and I think that is a bit of a stereotype. British people think that, but I think we do. Thinking, I think Trump just represents a lot of what's wrong with America and a lot of what we think about America. It's not just the racism; it's the self-entitlement, the worship of billionaires who actually haven't done any work and stuff for their millionaires. Like, compare Donald Trump to Alan Sugar, who does The Apprentice in the UK. Alan Sugar's like self-made Cockney from like London and stuff. Like, compared to like some guy who inherited $400 million from his dad when he died. So it just the cultures just don't compare. Yeah, Sylvia, I doubt we'll ever know. Same with JFK as well, and it's pretty sad. Like, Bobby could have won, could have become president. Who knows what America would look like if that happened? I wonder if it would change anything, because he was super interesting. Like, I watched an interview with Bobby Kennedy in 1966. He's talking about celebrity in regards to Ronald Reagan running for governor. But it's actually really interesting. You can watch a debate in 1967 between Ronald Reagan and Bobby Kennedy, and it's super interesting to watch. But also, yeah, Bobby Kennedy's talking about how much of an idiot Ronald Reagan is and how we shouldn't get brainwashed by celebrity. And it's the same thing with Trump, and it's really interesting how his words still resonate. And also, he was talking about how stupid it was, people getting busted for smoking marijuana, but, alcohol and cigarettes are fine, because he pointed out the lobbyism in America. So the lobbies control American politics, basically. And he was saying that in the 60s, and it's so interesting. Bobby Kennedy is like anti-Trump. He comes from wealth and privilege, but he actually used it for good rather than Trump. It comes from wealth and privilege and use it as a sense of self-entitlement. One of my favorite Bobby Kennedy quotes was saying that what makes us special in America for being born in one of the best countries in the world and living this really great life, when we could have been born in Tanzania and died before we were one because we were so poor. And the way he was pointing out that we're so privileged in this country that we should help others. It is really interesting. I really loved that when I was watching. So, if anyone cares about Bobby Kennedy, I made a tribute to him on the 50th anniversary of his death back in June 6th, 1968 is when he died. So if you go on my playlist again, I said to someone, the over 1K Club, I got in there, tribute to Robert Kennedy, and if you want to see what it was all about, go have a look at that. It's really, really something I'm really proud of. MacBird, that's fine. I'd rather you keep the money anyway, if I'm honest. But Joel asks, will there be a black prime minister anytime soon? We already have one in America. Well, I can't see it in the foreseeable future because there's no prominent black politicians apart from Diane Abbott. So, apart from, what's his name, Anwar, but he's in the independent group now. So, the problem with having a black prime minister is that we don't have any black leaders of political parties, and we don't have a black leader of the Tory party or of the Labour Party. So, no chance for a black prime minister in the foreseeable future. It doesn't matter, Macberg, but thanks a lot for the donations. I really appreciate it. It's really too much for your lost ad revenue. Do live streams even have ad revenue? I know they do when you watch them back. I don't know if they do when you're watching like straight. Thank you, Anzo. Yeah, I'm hoping it will grow. Like, it's stagnated for so long, my channel. like I was on 4.3 for like a year, and I was like, this is never gonna grow. And then I've nearly got 1,000 subs in the last 3 weeks. It's been pretty amazing because that Bernie video blew up. So I'm trying to keep it going. Oh man, it's too much. Anzo, it's too much. So Anzo gave me a nice donation as well. The breakdown of all of them. It's too many, man. I'll go through them quick. Couple words. Beto, corporate hack. Cory Booker, corporate hack who's a bit better. Kamala Harris, corporate hack with a history of prosecuting black people for non-violent marijuana offences. Who else we got? Andrew Yang, capitalist, has some good ideas. Not sure if I trust him. Elizabeth Warren says the right things, but wishy-washy on Medicare for All. Was a Republican until 1996, someone was telling me. Who else we got? Democrat primary. Who else we got? Klobuchar, whatever her name is. Don't know anything about her, but she's not going to win. Shit, who else? Tulsi Gabbard. Nice rhetoric on foreign policy, which I appreciate, but you know, don't think she'll be great. Maybe in the cabinet for Bernie Sanders. And yeah, of course, Bernie Sanders, the god of American politics. I love this guy. I love his book. I really hope he wins. And like Jeremy Corbyn in the UK, I'm sure the corporate media in the US will do everything they can to take him down. But come on. Pete, yeah, I need to look up Pete, man. What I heard, what I read about him, I really liked. I just need to look up, you know, what he's all about a bit more. So I like him if he runs. And who's Gravel? I like Gravel. I followed him on Twitter the other day, but it's two kids running his, two fucking high, like, was it university students running his Twitter account, but they're quite funny, so there we go. There's a rundown of the Democratic primary candidates for you. Honestly, wait, I'll show you. I've got a list of a British take on, I know it's backwards, you can't see it, but I've also got on my list, I've got Tulsi Gabbard, Beto O'Rourke, and a couple other people. I also got some other good issues like the American anthem debate thing at NFL games, Fox News, Democrats, Vietnam War, American Revolution, Ronald Reagan, Second Amendment. So I'll get these up over like a sort of slow period. I'm going to record about 3 videos tomorrow. Hopefully edit them over the week and get them up. I've got one video in backup about how The Hobbit is actually a tale about Marxism, but I don't know if my channel will like that, so I'm just holding on to it until I secure my channel a bit more. I don't want to get loads of unsubscribers, people thinking, oh, look at this Marxist. You need a podcast. Yeah, put it in the comments if you'd like me to do a podcast. I've been thinking about it, but I don't have the equipment, and I need a co-host, and I need someone to talk it with. So I'm not too sure. You know, I'm live streaming now, and it's kind of a podcast in its own way, but it's not very structured. So yeah, thanks Veronica and Evan. So I'll see. I'm trying to do a live stream every week, but I'm trying to think of how to do a podcast. It's just going to be me, which is fine because I can talk for ages. Like I've been talking for 120 minutes. It's like a football game with extra time. Yeah, Evan. I'll get someone like that. Maybe I'll just get a robot to keep saying yes. Oh, thank you, M Day. Yeah, please do. The British accent makes you sound smarter. Yeah, I don't know. Like I need a regular guest. But the thing is, right. Here's my problem. So I'm sure a lot of you also have this as well. You have a lot of friends and everything, but your friends don't like politics as much as you. So I don't want the podcast to divulge into me talking for ages with someone sitting there, maybe agreeing with me, maybe not, but not having a substantial knowledge to really give a proper opinion about it. And I don't want them to feel bad, like I'm just talking because I love this stuff so much, I know it well, just talking for ages and ages while they're just sitting there taking it all in. So I'm trying to think of a way to spin it a bit better, to make it more engaging for the people on it, rather than just being something for me. Like, for example, if I'm like, if my girlfriend's sitting right here with me, she's super smart, and she has great opinions and stuff, but like she doesn't follow American politics as much as me. So I've said, what do you think of Beto O'Rourke or something? Like, you know what I mean? Like she's not gonna have a too insightful opinion about that, or it's just gonna be me talking the whole time, because Beto O'Rourke, no one knows who Beto O'Rourke is in England apart from people who watch TYT and David Packman and shit. Yeah, bye Sylvia. Enjoy taking out the garbage. And who else? He's hoping to burn his prayers. Oh, sorry, Anzo, I missed this, but yeah, thank you, Anzo, if you catch this up. Really appreciate the donation, and I appreciate all your comments and asking me lots of questions. Yeah, Evan, I'll think about it. I'll draw up a plan for a podcast. I'm just trying to think, like, so basically, my equipment at the moment is, this is all I got. So I got this. So it's not the end of the world. So I could obviously, maybe, I won't take it off, but maybe put this mic on a table and then have the camera rolling. But I think I need some better mics, to be honest. So this is what I record all my stuff on, and it's decent. O'Rourke, is he Irish? I suppose he is. I haven't heard him talk about it. I heard him talk about how much Spanish he speaks, so. Alright, so let's see what the time is. Billionaire too powerful. Alright, a couple more minutes, and then I'll think about going off. Billionaire too powerful, too many stupid people. Yeah, billionaires too powerful, and you've elected a billionaire as president, although I doubt he's actually a billionaire. Apparently, that stuff with Deutsche Bank lately, so he's inflating his wealth. Apparently, he's probably only worth about 300 million. He thinks he's worth 3 billion, which, you know, Trump's a lifelong scam artist. All right, anyone, final questions, taking a couple. And if you've just joined, we've had a good chat tonight. I'm going to probably upload this live stream on my channel, so you can all check it out, check out the whole thing later. Very undirected. I didn't finish even talking about the first thing I want to talk about tonight, and that was the history of my channel, because we're getting so many good questions, which is, it's the way the live stream want to go. You know, I don't want to talk for like 10 minutes and then switch off because no one's watching and no one's talking. So yeah, I'll give you 2 minutes. Get your questions in now if you got any. But yeah, so coming up in the future on my channel, let's just talk about this now. I got okay, here we go, Evan. Did you see that AOC video of her 5-minute quickfire questions exposing the corrupt system? If that was in Congress and her tests, and she was asking all those questions about how you could, I think she was asking, is there any laws against the president or members of Congress owning stocks and stuff like that, and then obviously that influences their vote. So that was really great if you're talking about that one specifically. Am I related to Brett Kavanaugh? No way. My name is obviously Kavanaugh as well, but take out the take out the U, and that's my name spell. And no, I'm not related to him. I hope. He's a fucking dirtbag. You know, it's just, I don't even want to talk about him. He's just such disgusting to me. There's no Kavanaugh I really know who's famous apart from, I think, Conor McGregor's trainer is called John Kavanaugh, I think, is the only famous one I know. Yeah, Evan, that was the one. It was so good. I think it was one of them. It was the most watched C-SPAN video in history, which C-SPAN is just the channel that covers politics in America. Yeah, classic. I agree. The system does suck. All right, so the time is now 2:53, and luckily I will stay out so late. So let's wrap it up here. M Day, I would absolutely love to be on TYT. I would credit a lot of their coverage of me having such a great interest in politics and everything. So I would actually love that. If anyone has Twitter, I got onto that interview the other night because someone tagged me on their stuff. So if you have Twitter, please tag me in if you ever share my stuff and post it to people like John or Anna or Jenk, who doesn't really check his Twitter, but Jimmy's pretty active on Twitter, so wouldn't mind that. Just getting the word out there is always good. So I control my fate. Next video, I'm not too sure at the moment, so I've got my Hobbit Marxism one in backup, just in case I don't finish. Macberg, I watched him a bit, Secular Talk, not too much though. I don't really know why. Sometimes I tune into him. I've been pretty bad with YouTube stuff lately because I've been focusing on making my own stuff so much. I haven't really been watching it. But next video, so yeah, tomorrow I'm going to film a couple. I'll see. So Joe Biden, I was talking about that, creepy Joe Biden. Going to make one on that. Got my list of candidates like Beto O'Rourke and Tulsi Gabbard. I'll see what the mood takes me, because You might not know this, I don't actually ever plan my videos, and I don't actually script any of them, apart from the ones where my face isn't in them, so I'm normally doing them off the top of my head. So it's normally whatever I'm in the mood for that day, and what I feel like I can talk about for hours, or 20 minutes is, or 30 minutes is my average length. So Vietnam, I could talk about for hours, Ronald Reagan, Second Amendment, American healthcare. I'll see what I'm feeling tomorrow. I'm going to try and bang out a couple, just so I can edit them over the week and release them. Will there be a no-deal Brexit? No, there will not be a no-deal Brexit. I guarantee that won't happen, because we'd be so fucked if it did, because the border's shit with Ireland. Like, it would unlock a Pandora's box. Talk about the Green New Deal. Yeah, maybe not tomorrow, but maybe I should, because I need to research that a lot more. I don't have a great knowledge on the ins and outs. I obviously know what its aim is, but I don't know enough about it in general. But yeah, that's not a bad idea. I should add it to the list. I think I'm going to focus on the Joe Biden one, though, because I think that's pretty important. I'd say general election this year, because I just don't think Theresa May's going to last. And I think she'll resign, maybe even resign after Brexit. It must be so stressful, even though she's just doing it all for her own power. But hopefully, I want Labour to make up some more seats, to be honest, because they did well in 2017. Let's hope they can continue that in 2019. I'm sure a lot of people in the country are sick of Tory incompetence, but you never know. We're just as brainwashed as the fucking US, so don't be hopeful that Jeremy Corbyn will become Prime Minister. I'll say that now. Yeah, Evan, I definitely agree with what they're trying to do, like, especially for America's the second biggest polluter in the world in terms of everything, so it needs to definitely change. And as a capitalist country, I can't believe it doesn't see a bigger opportunity in changing its economy to, more green friendly. I guess it shows the power of the big oil, big pharma, big fossil fuels and everything, because if it can't get these things passed, even though they're great capitalist opportunities, Joel, that would be amazing. That's what I'd want, especially. I can't imagine what would happen if Jeremy Corbyn becomes Prime Minister. If you don't know, our last socialist, not strictly socialist, but our last socialist Prime Minister was investigated by MI5 trying to smear him as a Soviet spy. I think that was Wilson in 1976. Had to resign because he's so stressed about them spying on him all the time. Crazy. Yeah, Evan, I definitely want to live in that world too. Alright, so let's leave it there. End of the questions tonight. So, basically, before I go, I'll just say, yeah, Bernie and Corbyn, that'd be lovely. Imagine the bromance there. A world you like for the kids, yeah, exactly. So coming up this week on my channel, I try and get 3 videos up a week, so hopefully do one tomorrow night, Wednesday night, and Saturday night, normally when I'm at load. Live stream again on Sunday, hopefully. I'll take what people are saying about podcasts to heart. I'll try and get an idea going. I know a lot of my friends have shown an interest in it, but because so many of my new subscribers are all Americans and have subscribed for American politics, essentially, or my own perspective of American politics, I don't want to diverge too much from that. That's why I'm a bit afraid about uploading my Marxism video. But I'll see anyway. So, yeah, this has been really great. I haven't live streamed since May last year, and it's been really great getting all your comments. I really appreciate the donations that people have donated. I really appreciate all the recent support. Like, I know you hear people say this sort of stuff all the time, but I really appreciate all the comments. And if you've left a comment on my video, I've been really busy this weekend, but I'm going to reply to them all. Some of them are pretty long, so if I'm out and I'm just glancing at them, I don't reply because I want to engage with it properly, so I only reply to the short ones. But I'm going to, I've tried to reply to all of them. I'm going to go back tonight. I'm going to go through some longer ones I've got recently and reply to them all. But yeah, just really appreciate all the support lately. It's been really amazing getting nearly 1,000 subs the last couple of weeks, and it's really been a nice confidence boost to everything you've said. And I've enjoyed talking to you all. Like, you guys are the type of subs I've wanted on this channel for ages, and it's really refreshing to go on your channels, people who have them open, and see who you've subscribed to, or people I subscribe to, like Pacman, Kyle Kalinske, TYT, Jimmy Dore, Humanist Report, and everything like that. It's really nice that now my channel says in my description, this guy's channel is related to these channels, instead of being related to some weird channels that I'm not really watching and everything. So yeah, appreciate all the support. If you've been interested in some of the things I spoke about when I've talked about videos I made, go check out my Best of the Camel Knuckle playlist or my Over 1K playlist for some of the the stuff I've made recently. And yeah, thank you again for tuning in. And yeah, so about this time next Sunday, I'll post on my community tab if I can't do it, and I'll post if I can, and I'll let everyone know if they want to tune back in. Hopefully we'll get more structured to it. Like, I'll try and come with like some set topics, and I'll talk about them, and then we can all post comments on them, rather than me just try and talk about something and then go off a tangent and then go off on another tangent. I try and make it a bit more structured. But it's been good to see how many people will tune in and how many people will watch. And yeah, yeah, like I've been saying, super appreciate all your nice words and everything. And I hope everyone has a good week at work or school and everything. And yeah, I just really appreciate all the support. I can't really stress that enough. So thank you all. If you comment after I'm done with the live stream, I will eventually see it. Just letting you know if I just abruptly go off. Yeah, have a good week too, Evan. And yeah, so I probably should go to bed in a sec. It's 3 a.m. But yeah, cheers everyone for tuning in. And yeah, stay tuned to my channel for content. And yeah, just can't stress it enough. Thank you again for everything. And thank you again